You know how we're always told that compromise is the key to a good deal? You find that middle ground, you split the difference, and boom, everyone's supposed to be happy. But what if that's all wrong? Like, completely fundamentally wrong? Well, today we're diving into the work of Chris Voss. He's a former lead FBI hostage negotiator. And his big idea is that in any situation that really matters, you should never split the difference.
Wow, what a line, right? But Voss uses this to make a brilliant point. Negotiation isn't just for bank robbers and international incidents. It's for dealing with your toughest nails mom, your boss, your kids. It's just a basic part of being a human. And it turns out, the rules we all think we know might be the very thing holding us back.
All right, so first things first, let's just tear down this whole idea of compromise. See, splitting the difference feels fair, it feels easy, but in reality, it's often just, it's lazy. And it can lead to some really terrible outcomes for everybody involved.
Think about it. With this example, it just totally exposes how ridiculous the whole split the difference idea can be. What are you going to do? Offer the guy 2 hostages and a bus ticket to Ohio? Of course not. It's absurd. And this extreme situation just shines a giant spotlight on the fact that when the stakes are life and death, just meeting in the middle isn't just a bad strategy, it's completely impossible.
Now, you'd probably think that negotiators can just, lie to get what they want. Just say anything to end the situation. But you'd be wrong. The world of negotiation is actually pretty small. Voss tells this wild story about a guy in a siege who had been through it before, and he was literally coaching the negotiator saying, "Hey, you're not doing a very good job. You're supposed to be building a rapport with me." Can you imagine? It just goes to show you that your reputation, your integrity, it's everything. You can't just burn bridges because you will probably have to cross them again.
So, if compromise is off the table, what do you use instead? Well, this gets us to the absolute core of Voss's whole philosophy. It's a skill he calls tactical empathy. And trust me, this is a whole new way of looking at communication.
Okay, so what is tactical empathy? Here's the key. It is not about agreeing with the other person. It's not even about liking them. It's about taking the time to truly understand where they're coming from, their feelings, their motivations, even the really ugly stuff, and then calmly saying it back to them. It's all about making them feel heard on a really deep level.
And this distinction right here is absolutely critical. Sympathy is when you feel for someone. Empathy is about understanding what it's like to be them in that moment. And this isn't some fluffy feel-good idea. Voss points out that the FBI and Harvard's negotiation program use this exact same definition. You don't have to agree with a terrorist's goals to understand their perspective. And that understanding, that's your most powerful weapon.
So why is this stuff so powerful? Well, it's not a trick, it's just science. It taps directly into the limbic system of the brain. That's the emotional, decision-making part that we all have. This is all about basic human nature, which is why these exact same techniques work everywhere, on everyone, whether you're in Boston or Baghdad.
Okay, we've covered the theory. Now let's see how this plays out in the real world, in a situation where the stakes are as high as they can possibly get. This is where tactical empathy isn't just about getting a better deal on a car, it's about uncovering life or death information.
Now here's another amazing insight from the field. Think of it like a verbal fingerprint. We all have one and only one way of telling the truth. It's our baseline. But when we lie, we have a whole bunch of ways to do that. And the cool thing is, you don't need a machine to spot the difference.
This is basically how a lie detector test works, but you can do it just with your eyes and ears. It's pretty simple, really. First, you establish their truth baseline by asking a bunch of easy, non-threatening questions. Stuff like, what did you have for breakfast? Or what's the weather like outside? You watch how they act, listen to their tone. Then, you ask the important question. And you're not listening for the lie itself, you're just looking for any change from that baseline you established.
And this method, it's not just theory. It literally helped change the course of history. After 9/11, 2 of Voss's colleagues were interviewing a high-value detainee. First, they just chatted with him, getting that baseline of his truth. Then they showed him a really grainy photo of the man they suspected organized the attacks. The detainee lies. He says it's someone else, Ramzi Yousef's uncle. But his whole delivery, his tone, his body language, it all shifted away from his baseline. And that single deviation, that little change, was everything. It confirmed he knew exactly who was in that picture, and it led to the positive identification of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Okay, so that's some intense FBI stuff, for sure. But what about the rest of us? How does this superpower actually apply to situations you and I might find ourselves in?
So picture this. Chris Voss and 3 other hostage negotiators walk into a bar. And no, that's not the start of a joke. It's a real story. It's a crowded place, and he spots an empty seat and goes to take it.
Immediately, a guy sitting next to the empty seat confronts him. You can just feel the tension, right? This is that classic barroom ego clash about to happen.
And there it is. The threat is direct. It escalates in a heartbeat. Now, the typical response would be to get defensive, argue back, or just walk away defeated. But Voss, he does something completely different.
He doesn't challenge the guy, he doesn't back down, he just looks him in the eye, introduces himself by name, and holds out his hand. In that 1 second, everything changes. He went from being some guy to being Chris, a person. And as any negotiator will tell you, it is much, much harder to hurt someone once you know their name. Turns out the guy was a veteran having a really terrible day, and that tiny act of humanity just completely diffused the whole situation.
Now, here's an example that might be even more powerful. A client of Voss's was at a family gathering. His sister, who was under this enormous, unimaginable stress caring for their dying father, just started lashing out at him. And instead of getting defensive, instead of correcting her, he made a choice. He decided to just make her feel heard. For a full hour, he just listened. He didn't argue, he didn't dispute a single thing she said. He just gave her the space to be angry. The next day, he got an email from her. It said, "Yesterday I attacked you and you showed me nothing but love. Thank you for being my big brother." That, right there, is the power of tactical empathy.
Okay, let's bring this all together. Because what we've been talking about isn't just a handful of cool negotiation tricks. It's a fundamental shift in how we can communicate with each other.
This is the most important point of all. The mad, the bad, and the sad. These high-stakes dynamics, they aren't just for hostage negotiators. We deal with them every single day. The frustrated client at work, the angry teenager at home, the stressed-out partner, and sometimes we are all the mad, the bad, or the sad. This skill isn't for dealing with them, it's for dealing with us.
So, if there is one big thing to walk away from all of this, what is it? It's that tactical empathy is truly a transformative skill. It has the power to de-escalate pretty much any conflict, build real connection, and turn adversaries into collaborators, and even into loved ones.
So the final question I have for you isn't whether or not this stuff works. It's about where you're going to apply it. Think about the most difficult conversation you have to have right now. What would happen if, instead of trying to win the argument, you just tried to understand? So, who will you use it with first?